When a man takes you for granted, the worst thing you can do is keep chasing him, trying to prove your worth. The more you give, the more he expects, and the cycle continues. The key to making him suffer is cutting off your attention completely. This is not about playing games or being manipulative. It's about understanding human nature. People don't appreciate what's always available, and the moment you step back, that's when they begin to notice what they lost. Men thrive on attention. Whether they admit it or not, they crave validation, admiration, and the feeling of being desired. When a man takes you for granted, it means he believes he has you no matter what. He assumes that no matter how he treats you, you will always be there. But what happens when you remove yourself from the equation? What happens when he reaches out and you don't respond? When he expects your usual affection and attention, but all he gets is silence? That's when the shift begins. At first, he may not even notice. He might assume you're just having a bad day or that you'll come back like you always do. But as the days go by and your energy remains distant, the discomfort sets in. He starts questioning things. He wonders if you've lost interest, if you've moved on, or worse, if someone else is occupying your time. This uncertainty eats at him because suddenly he's no longer in control. The attention he took for granted is gone, and now he has to face the consequences. This is where most women make a mistake. They start to pull away, but then their emotions take over. They get anxious when he doesn't react immediately. They check his social media, hoping for signs of regret. They get tempted to send that text just to see if he cares. But the moment you do that, you hand back the power. You reinforce his belief that no matter what happens, you'll always return. That's why true detachment is the key. When you cut off your attention, you must commit to it fully. The power of absence is greater than the power of presence. When you're always there, always available, he never has the chance to miss you. But when you disappear from his life, when you stop reacting, stop reaching out, stop feeding his ego, that's when the suffering begins. He starts replaying memories, wondering what went wrong, questioning if he made a mistake. And the more he thinks about it, the more he begins to realize that he might have lost something valuable. Silence is powerful. Instead of long paragraphs explaining your feelings, your silence will say everything. Instead of arguments trying to make him understand your worth, your absence will make him feel it. And that feeling of losing something without knowing if he can get it back will haunt him more than any words ever could. Men don't regret losing something until they feel its absence. And the only way to make them feel it is to truly walk away. No warnings, no explanations, no last chances, just complete emotional withdrawal. This is not about revenge, it's about self-respect. Because the moment you stop giving your energy to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that you are valuable, that you don't have to prove your worth to anyone who refuses to see it. And in that process, something interesting happens. The more you focus on yourself, the more he starts craving the energy he once had access to. He starts to wonder if he made the wrong choice. He becomes desperate for your validation again. But by then, you've already leveled up, and he's just another lesson in your journey of self-worth. One of the most powerful ways to make a man suffer after he has taken you for granted is by showing him that your world does not revolve around him. The moment he realizes that you are not affected by his absence, that you are not sitting around waiting for his attention, that's when regret starts to creep in. Men thrive on feeling important. They like to believe that they have a level of control over your emotions, that their presence or absence dictates how you feel. But when you flip the script and show him that his absence doesn't impact you the way he assumed it would, that's when he starts to feel the weight of what he's lost. The key here is transformation. You don't need to seek revenge or deliberately try to make him jealous. That kind of behavior only shows that you're still emotionally invested. Instead, the real power comes from focusing entirely on yourself. While he expects you to be sad, to be longing for him, to be waiting for him to return, you should be doing the opposite. Start focusing on your goals, improving yourself, and making it clear through your actions, not your words, that your life is moving forward without him. Men notice when a woman starts to glow differently. If he sees you happier, more confident, more focused, it unsettles him. He starts wondering why you are not affected, why you are not chasing, and most importantly, if someone else is giving you the attention he once took for granted. He expected you to be waiting for him, but instead, he sees you thriving. That realization is painful. It forces him to question whether he was truly as important as he thought. Social media, while often overused, can be a subtle tool here. Not to post about sadness or cryptic quotes about heartbreak. That only signals weakness. Instead, posting about achievements, new experiences, and positive changes sends a much stronger message. He will see it, he will notice, and the more he sees you embracing life without him, the more it will eat at him. Another crucial aspect is how you interact with him, if at all. If he reaches out, keep the conversation short and indifferent. Don't be rude, but don't be overly engaging either. Show that his presence in your life is no longer a priority. This shift in energy is what will make him suffer the most. He will start questioning his importance in your life. He will wonder if he ever truly mattered the way he assumed he did, and that uncertainty is what makes him regret taking you for granted. Men are competitive by nature. The idea that they were once in control and now no longer have that power is what truly unsettles them. The moment a man feels that he has lost his position in your life, he begins to suffer internally. He may not admit it, and he may not show it immediately, but deep down, it will affect him. He will replay the past, wondering where things changed, trying to figure out how he went from being your priority to just another person in your world. The most powerful move you can make is to become the best version of yourself, not for him, but for you. Elevate your mindset, focus on your growth, and make it clear that your happiness was never dependent on him in the first place. That's when he will truly feel the consequences of his actions. That's when he will regret not valuing you when he had the chance. One of the most effective ways to make a man realize your worth after he has taken you for granted is by embracing a level of silence and mystery that unsettles him. When a man assumes you will always be there, always responding, always available, he becomes complacent. He stops appreciating your presence because he believes he can have access to you whenever he wants. The moment you take that access away, you shift the dynamic entirely. Suddenly, he finds himself in a position of uncertainty, and that uncertainty breeds discomfort. Men like predictability when it comes to control. They want to know that if they ignore you, you will chase. They want to believe that if they pull away, you will try to fix things. But when you do the unexpected, when you stop explaining, stop reacting, stop seeking answers, you throw him into a place of confusion. He starts wondering why you aren't doing what he assumed you would. He questions why your energy has shifted, why you're no longer fighting for his attention, why your responses are either minimal or non-existent. That's when his mind starts working against him. The silence is powerful because it forces a man to sit with his own thoughts. When you are no longer available to provide reassurance, to validate his importance, he has nothing to hold on to but his own insecurities. He starts questioning whether he ever mattered as much as he thought he did. He begins overanalyzing past conversations, looking for clues, trying to figure out what changed. And the more time passes, the more he realizes that he may have lost something valuable. What makes this even more effective is maintaining an air of mystery. If you completely disappear in a way that seems forced, it can come across as playing a game. But if you maintain a presence without giving him any real access, that's when it truly starts to affect him. He sees you living your life, but he's no longer a part of it. He doesn't know what you're thinking, who you're talking to, or what you're planning. And for a man who once felt in control, that loss of certainty is painful. When he eventually reaches out, which he will, it's important not to fall into the trap of giving him what he wants immediately. If you respond too eagerly, he will assume you were just waiting for him all along. Instead, your responses should be calm, indifferent, and to the point. You don't have to be cold, but you also don't have to entertain him like before. A short, polite response without any extra emotion sends the message that he is no longer in control of your emotions. That realization alone is enough to make him regret ever taking you for granted. Another important factor is how you carry yourself in public or online. If he sees you engaging with life, enjoying yourself, and thriving without any mention of him, it only adds to his confusion. He expected you to react, to show signs of struggle, but instead, you're showing him that his absence has not affected you in the way he thought it would. That's when the tables turn. The key is to let your actions do the talking. When a man feels your absence but doesn't get an explanation for it, it forces him to face the reality of his own choices. He will start replaying every moment, wondering what went wrong, questioning if he made a mistake. And that internal struggle is far more powerful than any words you could say to him. By staying silent and maintaining your mystery, you make him suffer in the best possible way, by letting him realize on his own that he underestimated you. One of the most powerful ways to make a man suffer after taking you for granted is by elevating yourself in every possible way. Physically, emotionally, mentally, and even socially. When a man takes you for granted, he assumes that no matter how he treats you, no matter how much effort he puts in or doesn't, you will remain the same. He believes that you will always be within reach, that your world revolves around him, and that he holds a permanent place in your life. But the moment you shift your focus inward and start becoming the best version of yourself, you disrupt that illusion entirely. Self-improvement is not just about proving a point to him, it's about proving to yourself that you deserve more than what he offered. When you invest in yourself, you send a silent but undeniable message. You are not someone who waits around to be appreciated. You are someone who thrives regardless of who is in your life. This realization alone can be a brutal wake-up call for a man who thought you would always be waiting for him. First, focusing on your physical presence plays a crucial role in this transformation. When you start looking better, taking care of yourself, dressing with confidence, and carrying yourself with grace, people notice. And most importantly, he notices. It's not just about superficial looks, it's about the glow that comes with self-care and self-respect. The more you invest in yourself, the more you radiate confidence, and confidence is intoxicating. A man who once thought he had you wrapped around his finger will suddenly start questioning everything when he sees you looking better, standing taller, and embracing your self-worth. But physical transformation is only a part of the equation. The real power comes from emotional growth. A man who takes you for granted does so because he believes you are emotionally dependent on him. He assumes that your happiness, your sense of self, and your confidence are tied to him. The moment you detach emotionally, he loses control. And that loss of control is painful. When you no longer react to his presence, when his messages no longer excite or upset you, when his absence no longer affects your mood, that's when he realizes he has lost something valuable. Emotional growth also means you stop entertaining things that don't serve you, you set boundaries, and you enforce them. You no longer accept breadcrumbs of attention or half-hearted efforts. Instead of begging for clarity, you walk away from confusion. Instead of settling for inconsistency, you demand reliability. And when he sees this shift, it shakes him to his core. He starts realizing that the version of you he took for granted no longer exists, and that is a hard truth to accept. Another aspect that makes him suffer is your social presence. When a man sees you being appreciated, admired, and surrounded by people who value you, it stings. He starts wondering if someone else is giving you the attention he failed to give. He questions whether you've moved on, whether you're happier without him, whether you found someone better, and that uncertainty eats away at him. When he sees you out, enjoying life, surrounded by people who recognize your worth, it forces him to confront the reality that he miscalculated your value. Mental growth ties everything together. The more you invest in learning, expanding your mindset, and building something meaningful for yourself, the more you separate yourself from the person he once knew. Whether it's focusing on your career, developing new skills, or simply becoming more independent in your thoughts, this transformation makes you even more attractive, not just to him, but to everyone around you. A man who once believed you needed him will suddenly realize that he was just a small chapter in your story, not the whole book. When he finally realizes his mistake and tries to come back, you will be in a position of power, not because you played games or tried to manipulate him, but because you genuinely outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated being taken for granted. And that is the ultimate way to make him suffer. Not through revenge, not through anger, but through undeniable self-elevation. By becoming the best version of yourself, you don't just make him regret his choices, you make him realize that losing you was his greatest mistake. One of the most effective ways to make a man suffer after he has taken you for granted is by mastering the art of detachment and unpredictability. When a man assumes that you will always be there, always available, and always emotionally invested, he becomes complacent. He stops putting in effort because he believes he doesn't have to. The moment you break that pattern, when you stop reacting the way he expects, when you become unpredictable in your responses, when you detach emotionally, that's when he starts to feel your absence in a way he never imagined. Right? Detachment is not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely shifting your focus away from him. When you stop revolving your world around him, you regain control over your emotions and energy. Instead of obsessing over his actions, his words, or his attention, you channel that energy into yourself. You no longer seek his validation because you found validation within. This shift is powerful because he will sense it. A man can always tell when a woman has detached. He may not be able to put it into words, but he will feel the difference. And that feeling is unsettling. What makes detachment so powerful is that it disrupts his sense of security. When he took you for granted, he believed that no matter how he behaved, you would still care. He thought he could disappear for days and return to the same woman waiting for him. He assumed he could put in the bare minimum and still receive your time, affection, and energy. But the moment you detach, that illusion shatters. Suddenly, he realizes that your emotions are no longer tied to his actions. That realization alone can drive him insane. Unpredictability adds another layer to this. When a man is used to a certain dynamic, he takes comfort in knowing what to expect. If you were always the one to initiate conversations, if you were always available when he reached out, if you always responded the same way to his behavior, he feels in control. But when you change that, when you become unpredictable, he loses his grip. He doesn't know if you'll respond to his messages. He doesn't know if you'll answer his calls. He doesn't know if you even care anymore. And that uncertainty eats away at him. This doesn't mean playing games or being manipulative. It simply means refusing to be predictable. Maybe you used to text back immediately, but now you take your time. Maybe you used to always be available, but now you're busy living your life. Maybe you used to react emotionally to his actions, but now you remain indifferent. When he can no longer predict your moves, he starts to overthink. He starts wondering if you've moved on, if you're seeing someone else, if he has lost his place in your life. That mental turmoil is its own form of suffering. When you combine detachment with unpredictability, you become an enigma to him. He can no longer read you. He can no longer control the dynamic. And that loss of control is frustrating. He starts questioning everything. Did he misjudge you? Did he make a mistake? Did he underestimate your strength? He begins to chase, not because you asked him to, but because the shift in energy has created a void that he now feels desperate to fill. Another crucial aspect of this strategy is maintaining an air of mystery. The less he knows about your life, the more he will crave to know. When he realizes that he doesn't have access to your thoughts, your emotions, or even your daily activities, his curiosity turns into obsession. Social media can play a role in this. Posting just enough to show that you're thriving, but never revealing too much. Thinking too much. When he sees you enjoying life without him, when he sees you glowing with confidence, when he sees you moving forward without a second thought about him, he starts to feel regret. This entire process is not about revenge, it's about reclaiming your power. It's about shifting the dynamic so that you are no longer the one suffering from his lack of appreciation. Instead, he becomes the one feeling the absence, the uncertainty, the regret. And the beauty of it all, you won't even have to try. Once you genuinely detach and focus on yourself, the rest happens naturally. He will feel the shift. He will notice the change. And most importantly, he will realize too late that he took something invaluable for granted. One of the most powerful ways to make a man suffer after he has taken you for granted is by showing him that his absence has no impact on your happiness. Nothing is more painful to someone who expected to be missed than realizing they are completely irrelevant to your joy, success, and peace. When a man assumes you will always be emotionally tied to him, he expects you to struggle without him. He expects to see signs of heartbreak, desperation, or longing. But the moment he realizes that your life has only improved without him, that is when the regret sets in. When a man walks away or mistreats a woman who truly valued him, he does so believing that she will struggle to move on. He convinces himself that she will spend nights thinking about him, replaying memories, and hoping he comes back. But when he sees the opposite, when he sees her glowing, thriving, and moving forward effortlessly, it hits him in a way he never anticipated. He realizes that the place he held in her life was never as important as he imagined. That realization alone is enough to make him suffer. What makes this strategy so powerful is that it does not require any direct action against him. There is no need for arguments, no need for revenge, no need to prove anything to him. The only thing required is for you to genuinely shift your focus from him to yourself. Instead of wasting energy on what he's doing, who he is with, or whether he regrets his actions, you pour that energy into yourself. You invest in your growth, your happiness, and your future. That shift alone is enough to make him question everything. This is why self-improvement is one of the most effective forms of silent revenge. When a man sees that the woman he once took for granted is now more confident, more successful, and more radiant than ever, he cannot help but feel a sense of loss. He begins to realize that he did not just lose a woman, he lost an opportunity to be part of something extraordinary. And the worst part, he knows that he has no claim to that version of you anymore. Imagine this. He once had access to your time, your attention, your energy, your love. He took it for granted. Now, you have leveled up in every way possible. You are achieving new goals, surrounding yourself with new opportunities, and exuding a confidence that was missing when he was around. He watches from a distance, unable to reach out the way he once could. Even if he tries, he realizes that your energy is no longer open to him. That is a pain far greater than any argument or confrontation. Men often operate with the mindset that they can always come back. They believe that no matter what they do, the door will always be open, especially if they once held a significant place in a woman's life. But when that door closes completely, when he sees that you have truly moved on, when he understands that you are no longer waiting, that is when the suffering begins. It is not just about losing you, it is about losing the version of you that once cared for him. The key to making this work is authenticity. You cannot fake happiness, success, or confidence just to make him suffer. The goal should never be to seek his reaction. It should be to genuinely create a life that fulfills you. When your happiness is real, when your growth is undeniable, he will feel it without you having to do anything. At some point, he may try to come back. He may send a message, find an excuse to reach out, or try to test if you still care. This is where your true power lies. When you do not respond with the same eagerness as before, when you show indifference instead of excitement, he will understand the full weight of what he lost. That moment, when he realizes that he is no longer relevant in your world, is the moment he truly suffers. And by then, it will not even matter to you anymore.